Music, dance, theater. It's time to take a seat on the aisle with Tom Alvarez. Hear from performers, producers, presenters, and creators who enrich our lives in the performing arts. Who's on stage? Here is Tom Alvarez to introduce you.
Hello, and welcome to On the Aisle with me, Tom Alvarez. Today we feature Jessica Crum Hawkins, who is an accomplished actor, singer, and dancer. Join me now as I go on the aisle for a chat with Jessica. Welcome to my podcast, Jessica. It's just a pleasure finally meeting you.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me, Tom.
As I was saying out in the lobby, I feel like I know so many people because I cover the arts. And, I've seen you plenty of times on stage. And, of course, those are all characters. And you never know how much people bring their own individual personalities into their characters. Some people, when you meet them, they are the same people you see on stage because, they're character actors and they're personality actors. So you seem to have a personality all your own. Would you say that? And you do great characters. I've seen you do a lot of character work.
Thank you.
Is that something you enjoy?
Oh, absolutely. I really enjoy, the whole gamut, I suppose. So kind of more dramatic, meaty, sad, all the way to ridiculous, humorous, over-the-top characters. So I think it's fun to be kind of all over the place, really, because you get to share different stories that way and reach different people that way. So, yeah.
Well, I'm looking down at your bio right now, and I had seen your bio, which is about a paragraph, which you usually see the program, but I had no idea. I've seen a lot of this stuff, though, now that I look at it. It's a Wonderful Life and The Great Gatsby and Boing Boing. Saw that. Yank the Musical, Legally Blonde, Joseph, Flood Brothers, on and on and on. Mary Poppins. Of course, La Casa Azul. We are going to spend time talking about that because I saw it 3 times.
Yes.
And was there a 4th time, the concert version? Or
I think it was 10 years ago originally, and we did it in June and October. And then 4 or 5 years ago at the Phoenix. And then the concert version a couple years ago at the Palladium. Yeah.
So we'll get to that. But let's talk about Jessica Crum Hawkins. It's a wonderful stage name. So tell me about your background. Give us a sort of a thumbnail sketch about where you come from.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I actually grew up not too far from here in Pittsboro, Brownsburg. Yeah. Went to Tri-West Junior, Senior high school. And then I actually spent 2.5 years at Bethesda Christian School. I graduated with 33 people, very little conservative Christian school in Brownsburg. And my family, a lot of my family still lives over that way. I went to college at Cornerstone University in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I have a music minor and a kinesiology major, so exercise science, that I pretty much just use on myself. And I didn't really do much theater after high school until I saw my mom in Cinderella at Hendrick Civic Theater, 13, 14 years ago. And I suddenly thought, I really loved theater. I wonder if there are theaters around Indianapolis. And I really had no clue. There are so many theaters, wonderful theaters around the area. And so I got involved. I got back into theater in my early 30s and created a monster and can't stop now. So.
Well, it certainly reflects on your bio that you love theater. Did you, along the way, take classes? Do you have any training?
I have some vocal training in high school and college, but the vocal training's all pretty much classical. So it's been a challenge and a joy to really expand from that and get to do more musical theater. Of course, I did some in high school, but a lot of the voice lessons I've done have been more classical and some for La Casa Azul, which is not classical, but maybe closer to it than like a Broadway belt, which is kind of a lot of the roles I do.
Name some of the theaters. I named off some of the shows you've been in, but name some of the theaters that you've been associated with over time.
Great. I would say, well, they're not doing anything anymore. But a Carmel Repertory Theater is actually who I found out about first, and that's when I first got involved in theater about 12, 13 years ago. I've done a lot of Footlight musicals, booth-targeted civic theater, as well as I've done some at Carmel Community Players, Buck Creek Players, Mud Creek Players, Cryptid Entertainment, getting ready to open a show there next Friday. And there are a lot of others. Claude McNeil Productions. Oh, goodness. I'm sure there's so many more. So...
Have you ever worked on the professional level at the Indiana Repertory Theater or FIFA Boards or Actors Theater of Indiana?
I have not done any of those yet, so who knows? Yeah. Not opposed.
Yeah. Had you ever had thoughts about seeking your equity card? Because that's what it would take to work there. At least you get your points there, right?
Correct.
I know it's a catch-22, but thoughts about it?
I have thought about it. I think with having the equity card, it could open up amazing opportunities for some more professional productions. But I also am just someone that loves telling stories. So I just kind of love to be able to go where there's a story or a director I love to work with, or, you know, sometimes I'll do dramatic stuff for a while and I'll say, I need to do something ridiculous. So I kind of just follow my heart. There's so many great theaters around here, but yeah.
It's the work. It doesn't necessarily... I asked you about your job. Tell us a little bit about your day job.
Yes. I work at Group 1001, which is kind of insurance and annuities. It's up in Zionsville, and I'm a sales commission service representative, which is a mouthful, but I process. It's not very exciting, but I actually love structure and love during the day when I'm not on stage. I enjoy kind of a basic, kind of boring job. So I process commissions for agents in the fields.
Is it fulfilling?
Yes. I mean, it's kind of new. I've just been there about 4 to 5 months, but I get to work from home 3 days a week. There's some other theater people that also work there. And I love that this company is very pro DEI and very supportive of veterans and the LGBTQ plus community. It's very adamant about that. So I love the company.
And they support your avocational theater.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
They work with you on that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's wonderful. So you have some stability and structure that's important to you, plus a paycheck.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you had the best of both worlds, though, right?
I'm very blessed.
Passion and still feel like you're making a living. But back to the work. Yeah, I've seen you in a lot of stuff, and you're one of those performers who I always, as a reviewer, there are certain people who catch my attention. It's the kind of thing that, someone says, well, I couldn't take my eyes off of this person on stage. And that's when I see you often in different characterizations, I always believe your character. For me, that's really important as a critic, that anything that takes me out of the story, I consider a distraction. Not only acting, but maybe directing, or just, it could be, something in the lighting or the sound, or wrong shoe or a bad wig, I like to say.
I know nothing about that, ever.
But, it sounds like you have run the gamut locally. You dipped your toes in a lot of waters. It sounds like.
I have.
All those different theaters, and they all have different identities. Cultures. And what's been your experience as a, quote, avocational actor in terms of all the other people like you out there? You're a pretty close-knit group. You all know each other, do you not?
Yeah, I feel like it feels like a big community sometimes. There are so many shows going on. There are so many ways to be involved on stage or backstage, and all equally important in putting a show on. But yes, especially going, some people stay at a few theaters or one theater, and they just love to do things there, which is wonderful.
Footlight has that kind of culture. Go back there.
Yep. I've done the most shows at Footlight as far as a percentage wise. So, but also you go to other theaters or you go to see shows and support artists at other theaters, and you meet people that way. And a lot of times you see people on stage and you feel like you know them a little bit. You don't, but you know that you have the same kind of passions and some experiences that you've probably shared. So it does give you a great common ground to build off of.
What do you love most about that so-called, or I'll call it the culture? It's a subculture I find the theater community here.
I would say that I love that there is so much opportunity around here, and that for the most part, you get a community that very much understands that, or at least the way I look at it is sometimes it's not my turn. And sometimes I think what is meant for me will come my way, or it's somebody else's turn, and we get to cheerlead other people. So that kind of support, and we can't see all the shows, but still making sure people know, I see what you're doing, and it's incredibly important on stage, backstage, doing a spotlight, stage managing, which I would never have I wouldn't be able to do that. It'd be terrible. But there are so many different jobs. And even though there are kind of groups within those groups, subgroups, yeah, just that kind of community and knowing that we all want to see each other succeed.
I guess there's a perception that, it can be cliquey. Is that true? But that happens in any structure, I find.
It does. It does. I'm not, cliques definitely happen. And I can't say that they happen one place and not another place. But it happens because you work with people and you have a special experience and you have a bond there. It's almost never intentional or mean-spirited, but it does happen. You get your tribe, you get your circle, but it is also another reason why I enjoy going to many different theaters, because hopefully I maintain an openness to not be in one set group, because meeting new people and learning about their experiences on and off stage is, people, and to me, people and God are eternal, and everything else is everything else. So I just love, the relationships that you can build within theater.
I'm going to ask you a series of, who are your favorites? What are your favorite shows? Let's start there. Favorites. I know I never want people all this. What's your best or anything like that? But
No.
So I know you can't do that.
No.
Just share some of your, what ones that come to the top?
The ones that come to the top, one of the first big roles I got when I got into theater was Betty Haynes in White Christmas. And I was able to do that role 2 years in a row at Footlight, 2013 and 2014, I think. And I grew up on that movie. It is one of my favorite Christmas movies.
Is that the Rosemary role?
Yes, Rosemary Clooney role. And I also adore jazz music. So I don't know if you'd call that jazz, but, Irving Berlin, Gershwin, all of that. So that is one of those roles that I had fairly early on that I just will love forever. That, and I've been able to be at 2 different theaters separated by, several years. I was able to be Paulette Bonafonte in Legally Blonde. Very different than Betty Haynes, but a funny, silly character role. So just 2 very different shows. Yank the Musical is a musical I don't think most people are familiar with. A beautiful, I think, love story between 2 soldiers in World War II. And I was able to play all of the female roles. I think it was still Tots then, the District Theater Tots. 2019?
Yes.
I think. So those are a few of my favorites. Of course, La Casa Azul.
Well, let's talk about La Casa Azul. The other evening, I had the great pleasure to see Gregory Blade Hancock's most recent production is Spring Equinox. It's what made me think that I need to reach out to you. You've been on my list for some time. having seen you play the role of Frida Kahlo and those various versions of his, that performance stood out for me for a number of reasons. And by the way, for the power listeners, what we're talking about, this is an original musical, written, produced. I mean, Gregory does everything. I'm sure he did the costume. I know he did the costume.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the man is brilliant. He composed it. He wrote the lyrics. I mean, did he direct it as well?
He directed, I know, the first incarnation back in 2015.
And that was at the Palladium where it premiered?
No, that was Booth Tarkington, yes.
Booth Tarkington, yeah. And then he did another version at the Phoenix. Mm-hmm. Yep. Saw that. And then he did the concert version.
Yes. At the Palladium with Carmel Symphony Orchestra.
Okay, the production he did at the Phoenix. Were you in that production?
I was. Yeah. I was Natalia.
That's right.
Trotsky.
He casts a lot of Latinos.
Which I absolutely support and probably should always be that way. Yeah.
Well, I know that in my own mind as a reviewer and as a Latino myself, I'll be candid. I'm of the camp that wherever possible, find Latinos, Asians to play Asians to me. And that's happening more and more, which I'm happy to say. Even I was so incredibly impressed with Beef and Board's interview. When you are proactive and you put yourself out, you can find them. They're there. You just need to look.
Yes.
It was all Asian cast. That was remarkable.
I saw that production. Probably it might be my absolute favorite.
And back to La Casa Azul, you have to work with the resources you have, the time, and but you did a fantastic job. And then you won me over because I believed you. Okay, I believed you. So that's not to say that white people can't play other roles, black people can't, whatever. We're all demonstrating it's about a state of mind. And acting, that's what the whole... But whenever possible, it's great when those kinds of roles are featuring people of color. It's important wherever possible to find those actors.
Absolutely. And I feel like, 10 years ago with having your own show and the world premiere and you need people to fill it, I know that I would never portray Frida again. Sing the songs, yes, but I would be unwilling to because it should be a Latina woman.
Yeah.
So
that was a very special production. I met many of those actors at the meet and greet. Many of them were from San Antonio. Mm-hmm. This is where he had hoped to go, except for COVID.
Yes.
So I hope that happens again.
I would love to see that.
Works, but I am a huge. And I've been for years, and over the years, I've made a point of seeing Frida Kahlo's work. In fact, there's a show right now in Chicago of Kahlo exhibit. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's probably going to break records because wherever the work is shown now. So I've been following her work ever since she became really, really popular. And that's, it's been, ever since her passing actually really began to happen, but steadily. And so I thought that Gregory's story of her life was just very special. And then since then, the documentary has been made, documentaries, the film, so on and so forth. But it was special to see what Gregory was able to do in his music and, capturing. I thought he did an extraordinary job with capturing the essence of Mexico, I'm Mexican-American, but I have a great love for my heritage, and I've been to Mexico a number of times, and I've been to her home, Frida and Pedro's home. I've been to his home in Guanajuato, where he grew up. Mm-hmm. A lot of his work is in the museum there, so it's very much a part of my whole aesthetic, actually, their work. And so you should be very proud that you portrayed her with a lot of authenticity.
Thank you.
And so what was it like working with Gregory?
Gregory is a dream to work with because Gregory has always a clear vision, and Gregory instills, I think, in his dancers and when he works with actors, the ability to find that storytelling. Gregory is an magnificent storyteller with all of his shows, I think. And so Gregory knows, and he's so educated and intelligent and knows so much of the culture, not just of Mexico, but also all of his shows. Many of them are his shows that are just very international. And he's so knowledgeable with all of the cultures and the customs and different faiths around the world. So being able to bring that in, I think really energizes and inspires the dancers and actors to really bring that story as much professionalism and heart and passion
What is
that they can.
Directing? Is he an authoritarian or does he a collaborator? Does he give actors freedom to make their own choices? How does he work?
I would say definitely collaborative. There's sometimes clear direction, in paths and in blocking, but also not a you step here this time and so very collaborative, and also being someone that an actor can ask a question to or say, hey, I have an idea. What do you think about this? Which I think is wonderful for you to know that you're going to get some direction. I love to get notes. I would be a terrible director. I like to be told what to do for the most part, but also that if you have an idea, you can present it and see if that's something that would work or not. So yeah, I'd say very much so firm and a clear vision, but also open to collaboration. So yeah, Gregory and I still catch up and go get Indian food sometimes. And yeah, so Gregory's a friend, and I love working with Gregory.
The main comments in our review regarding his worldview, well, that's what I appreciate. Single-handedly, he's introduced the cultures of the world in his work in a way that I would like to think that is in a way that people like, oh, wow, that was kind of interesting. I want to know more about. He just did this piece based on, I'm blanking, maybe.
Krakow? Was it
Krakow.
Krakow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The opera singer, and oh my God, her performance just blew me away. I didn't know who she was, but now I want to get to know her and book her on this podcast. If she's hearing this, she doesn't know that yet. How she were. Anyway. Yeah, and that. Did you see Spring Equinox?
I missed that one. I'm able to see usually at least 50, if not more % of Gregory's shows, but getting ready to open my own show. And
tell me about your own show.
Not my own show. I'm in Reefer Madness, the musical.
By the time this drops, you should know it might be after the fact. You're opening.
Reefer Madness, the musical, is going to be at the Bastille Theater, the IF Theater, home of Indie Fringe on St. Clair Street, for 3 weekends, April 25th through May 11th, produced by Cryptid Entertainment. And this is kind of a
I've never heard of that.
Cryptid Entertainment. Dakota Jones, I probably have stuff on my phone, but Dakota Jones he did Bigfoot Saves America, Bigfoot Saves the World.
Independent.
Yes, independent. Psycho Beach Party that I was in last year at Fonseca. So a lot of fun, edgy, relevant, yet silly shows.
So the company performs at venues all over the city.
Correct. Yep. And often doing some fringe shows. Cryptid, CRYPTID Entertainment.
Good. You brought something to my attention.
And Reefer Madness is based off that 1936 propaganda film. So it is, over the top. We're warning people about the dangers of marijuana. It is quite campy. It is quite adult. This is not for your children, but just a lot of fantastic songs. It is a satire.
Tongue-in-cheek.
Mm-hmm. But it's also incredibly relevant, kind of sensationalizing things that people don't understand, and so they want them to go away, or they kind of demonize things,
It's in the news right now. Indiana State is trying to figure out whether marijuana should be legalized so we
Oh my, yeah.
so we can gain from the income.
Oh, from the taxes. Yeah. I will say, you know, people here, I grew up very conservative and I still have conservative family and friends, which is wonderful. But I think people hear the name Reefer Madness and they think we're promoting everybody smoking marijuana. And we're really not, but it is, you know, it's actually more we're telling these stories about, you know, if you let your children smoke marijuana, they're going to go crazy and become cannibals. And
What is your role in the show?
my role is May Coleman. She is kind of the woman that owns the Reefer Den, where they often try and bring young kids. And, you know, of course, they have one puff and then it's all downhill after that. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. But yes, it's incredibly fun. There's a lot of really catchy songs in it. I think if people heard a lot of the music, you know, when people hear it, they're like, oh, that's actually, you know, some musicals are more just about the comedy and just about the story, and then there's songs thrown in.
It sounds like something I enjoy. I'll have to check it out. Anyway, so I know that looking at your bio, you really appear to be a gypsy, a true theater gypsy. So do you jump from one show to the next, or do you take breaks?
I do take breaks. Let's see.
You have a family?
I have a husband who's a sous chef. And it's funny you mentioned, so he is Cuban-Mexican-American, but he was born in Alaska. He's an Army brat, so he's born on the Army base.
Mexican-American?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Wow, I keep hearing all these great combinations because of all the Latino immigrants here in the city. But go on.
But he is a sous chef, so we have very not aligning schedules. So doing theater in the evenings, you know, he's gone 5 evenings a week. So being involved in theater is great because there's nobody at home sometimes anyways. And my silly dog can get by on his own.
Is he a sous chef?
He is at Trax Barbecue in McCordsville.
Okay.
So, yep.
So he must have some fabulous meals.
I do when he's not busy cooking for everybody else. But yes, I love his cooking.
Oh, no, including me. Remind me, what is a sous chef?
Oh, sous chef. So he is kind of over, kind of a manager. He is a manager there. So he is trying to oversee all of the kitchen, make sure tickets are being processed and food is getting out, and making sure that you know, the times for the tickets, keeping that time down, and, you know, keeping an eye on what they're running out of and what they need to prep.
Of the show, I'm blanking on the name. It's winning awards and Emmys and whatever. The show.
The Bear.
Yeah, the Bear.
We should watch it. You would think we would.
You would love it.
I know we would. You know,
from the acting standpoint alone, that was snaring the food in the restaurant business. They really, it's a pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He probably gets enough cooking.
Yeah.
But I think it's something we probably would like to watch. We actually watch a lot of sci-fi and horror movies. Yes.
Yeah, in your free time?
Yes, in all my free time.
Yeah, so you don't have any kids?
Correct.
Okay. Do you have pets?
We have a dog, Loki, named from, naming your dog off the, what is it, the Norse god of mischief? Yeah, maybe wasn't the best idea. Yeah.
What's his breed?
Loki is, we think, a pit mix. He's a rescue. We've rescued a few dogs, and we such a big baby.
Is he chubby, one of those pits?
I wish.
Big.
He actually is very compact, very 50 pounds, but he looks much lighter, but all muscle. I can't fatten him up. I've really tried. But he is just a big baby and just...
A rescue.
Yep.
They're the best.
Yep. We've only gotten rescues, and I love to rescue, so...
So let's go back to your favorites. So favorite directors.
Oh, goodness.
I know you work with Casey Ross.
Mm-hmm.
And she's one of the most respected directors.
Yes.
What's your experience on what was the show?
Starmites, which was a very niche. It's a difficult show. There's a reason a lot of people don't even attempt it. So to put that on in the indie fridge, it was kind of a tedious, difficult process. And it was a long show. But once we got it up and running, that was a blast. Yeah. And definitely very collaborative process and people bringing, different ideas.
Were you in that quartet of women, the singers? It is a quartet, wasn't it? Was it?
Oh, the Damaris, who was the diva, and then the Banshees.
Yes. That's what I was talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. Addie Kohler and Yolanda. And myself. Yeah.
Potent group. That's
Thank you. We had a lot of fun.
Yeah. Good. And vocally, you were just really all very superb, as I recall.
Thank you.
So, other directors you've worked with?
Let's see. I did Something Rotten, which was another show I absolutely loved at Footlight about 3 years ago. And anytime I get to work with Ed Trout, Michael Davis, they're just both terrific to work with. You have that kind of environment where if there is something that you need to bring up, that you can do it. You don't feel like you have to walk on eggshells. You want to respect the process, but also there are not always areas where you feel like you can advocate because you don't know how it's going to go. But yeah, there are environments where...
I love your diplomacy.
I try. I am surprised, dramatic sometimes. But I also...
When you write about other people's work like I do, you learn that to talk about an art form, I mean, you got to speak your truth, but at the same time,
But also everyone's...
It's pushover.
Right. Yeah. Everyone's working hard and we're all, whether you're on stage or backstage, everybody's probably doing more behind the scenes than you know about, and has their other stuff.
But, when I see shows like Noises Off,
I've heard of Noises Off. I've never had the opportunity.
You do a great ensemble, like those shows that make fun of the process. Like the one that's on at IRT right now.
The play that goes wrong. Mm-hmm.
Others like it, like the backstage kind of stuff. It does exist, for people.
It does.
To satirize it is even more fun because people recognize the diva and, there are stock characters from theater. What do you find that draws you close to theater people? What is a theater person for those?
I feel like...
Your tribe.
Right. Yeah, I feel like theater people, either ones I'm close to or a lot in general, are really drawn to performing, obviously, but outside of that camaraderie that you build. I feel like it's a club, kind of like people that love to collect stamps have their club, and people that, any other kind of club, people that really love sports and love doing sports and watching sports together. That is not my thing. I feel like I'm not very competitive. There's competition in theater, but...
those statistics and balls and strikes, blah, 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 but you sure know show titles of actors and blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's Ramush.
Yeah. And I think...
You know what I love about theater people? Kelly, I love that theater people are so damn clever, and being around them, they just bring out humor.
Yes. Yeah, I feel that there's, a lot of clever, bright, intelligent, whether they have a job that is, with actors, sometimes we work a full-time job and we just love performing and meeting other friends.
And they perform for each other, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That does happen.
You ever get this, oh, you're so dramatic?
Never heard that in my life. Yes, I've heard it. Mostly from my mother.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I am the middle of 3 girls, so yeah.
Art imitates life and death before lifetime. Mm-hmm. My experience,
Yeah, and telling stories, I feel like that's, to me, what matters the most, not just, oh, I get to perform and be on stage. Of course, I do love costumes and wigs and, the getting lost in another character, especially if it's very different from you, and getting to tell a story that might just let people escape and laugh for a couple hours.
See, people I've talked to, performers who talk about, I like to delve deep into the psychological aspects about what do you do, what's your satisfaction. One of the things I'm always interested in is how actors, many actors who suffer like abuse or trauma can bring that into their work and their vulnerability. And even with comedy, I'm always just really, my experience in theater, starting in Theater School Beyond, is a lot of performers, are damaged, came from dysfunction. The stage to create this is be positive by performing and expressing themselves.
Absolutely.
Have you seen that in your long time working in the theater?
Definitely. In fact, going back to Gregory Hancock, I know he talks a lot about, he wants to bring beauty into the world and Gregory's had a lot of trials and a lot of, horrible things happen or difficult things, and being able to turn that pain, just much like Frida Kahlo did, into something beautiful that brings joy to people, that makes people see people that are different from themselves as maybe not as different as they thought. So, yeah, I feel like absolutely that is, art is, it's not just we're getting to put on a play. We get to tell these human stories and bring something, you can watch something on TV or on a movie, but live theater is a different kind of experience.
So your own experience, have you had things happen in your past that you've been able to express in your work?
I would definitely say so. Yes, I had a very difficult first marriage, and that's, a lot of issues and some therapy I needed to go through and a lot of body image issues after that. And honestly, getting back into theater was when I started to really realize how much it made me not focus on my body, realizing that nobody else was like I was. And that if people can be put in roles and seen as these beautiful people, regardless of their race or their size or their shape, then it's about the story.
Well, this is audio only, so people who see you on stage don't know how beautiful you are, attractive you are physically. And I wonder, have you found that a blessing and a curse as a woman or as a performer in your life?
I don't know. I've seen it as either, especially as we progress, hopefully, and continue to as a theater community. It is, I think, always going to be most about who can bring that authenticity to a role. When it's a musical, there's a lot of people that sing, absolutely amazingly well around here. Singing is great, but that's just a part of it. But, when you have a dance heavy show, it's those talents, but also it's really, I feel like, getting to the point where there is more, I don't want to say blind, but I don't see roles really most of the time being cast based on looks. It is a visual art form. We have to remember that the audience is visual, is looking. So that does go into it, I'm sure. But I feel like I love seeing, I'm not going to say the show. I saw a show a few years ago where the lead actress, who's a glamorous movie star, was a beautiful plus-size woman, and the supporting role was a size 2 woman. And the costumes that they gave the lead were terrible. And it really, really upset me because we need to be making sure that all actors, regardless of their body size, are given equal costuming that makes them look beautiful.
Yeah, I guess I was talking.
And feel comfortable.
Do you do any commercial modeling or acting?
I do not.
Okay, I thought maybe you did.
No.
I'm surprised.
I was I might be part of.
It's more in that realm these days that they cast people. They're more and more so you're seeing more character actors, though, than just pretty people here.
Okay.
People, so that's changing, but it wasn't always that way.
Yeah. And as we really promote DEI, which I absolutely do, I think sometimes there are going to be times where it means it needs to be somebody else's turn, somebody that's not a traditional white woman. And talent is always going to come first, but there are so many talented people that are not the norm. And whenever you can bring that in more, it makes other actors and other people in the community see that this is for everyone.
Speaking of how your past can define your attitudes or your values about the present, growing up in the background that you did, a conservative Christian background, you can hear how many that experience was a negative one. And of course, others talk about how they were able to navigate coming from a background then moving into this world that is, where there are so many, shall we say, values that are anti-religion, anti-conservative, the opposite. How do you navigate that world?
I feel like a lot of it is really, as you get older and you leave the home that you grew up in, you start to ask yourself why you believe what you believe. And even if you keep with, so I've kept with some of my faith, but I am definitely more liberal now. But realizing when you get into theater, especially even as a Christian, and you believe in free will, that everyone needs to make their own decisions and that you can respect people that believe things very different from you and that there's beauty in other faiths and especially your common ground of humanity. We are all here telling these stories, sharing this stage and sharing this world. And just understanding that you're going to learn things from other people, even if they have a very different culture and background and belief from you. And you're going to be able to share that with learning about other characters that you play as well. And that, I think, brings more empathy and compassion that maybe, if you grew up in a community that was you didn't have a lot of diversity, weren't exposed to a lot of different culture. But as you get into theater, you can learn so much about other areas and really grow to appreciate and respect it, even if it's not how you believe and how you feel. So.
Well said. I grew up Catholic and went to Catholic schools. The nuns used to say jokingly, but they were half serious, is don't go to public college because you'll lose your faith. And it's like, where do I sign up? And, my very first professor was a pronounced atheist. And, and then I discovered the theater. But I'm joking, but in many ways, my tribe opened me up to new ideas. I got exposed to this whole world that just totally changed my point of view. So I identify what your experience, what you went through, same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I feel like any faith that someone has, you should be able to question things and doubt things and ask.
How does your family feel about it? How do they feel about it?
They support me in my theater. There are shows that I say, you don't need to come to this one, or like Reefer Madness, even though it's, they would be okay. I don't think they'd enjoy it. So I don't do it to make them happy, My husband can't come to a lot of my shows, but he supports me, and I don't do it to please him or to make him proud of me. So he comes when he can get off work and stuff. But How
did you guys meet, by the way? I love stories, so tell me how you guys met.
It's not very exciting. We met at a place in Castleton. It's not there anymore. It was called the Beer Cellar. I used to love to go and do karaoke there with my friend. This was before I was in theater. Okay. And he was there with friends playing darts, and he heard me singing, and his friend liked my friend, and he's younger than me. He's about 6 years younger than me. So he was like 21 and I'd already been divorced and was not looking for anything, but we were friends for about 6 months. We'd go and see movies and hang out. Yeah, we were just friends. And then one evening we weren't friends. And then we got married 2 years later, and June will be 17 years.
Oh, wow.
So, and having not done any theater when we met and up until we got married, and then getting into theater, and he grew up on the Near East Side, not great part of town, and I grew up in Pittsburgh, Brownsburg, so we are from very different backgrounds. But the fact that I was able to get into theater, and he saw me in my first show, and he goes, I don't really know what's going on here, but I can tell you love it, and I think from what I can tell, you do a great job. And so he has always backed me up and supported me. So even though it's not his thing at all, but he's always supported me, and that's been fantastic. So
is he close to his Cuban Mexican family?
The Cuban side is on his dad's side, and no, he hasn't seen his dad since he was 10 or so, I think. But his mom is from Juarez, Mexico, and she lives like in Lawrence. And so, yeah, we get to see her a lot. And I am actually excellent at making Spanish rice. I miss it. We used to make tamales. You know, you make like 50 or 100 at a time at Christmas time. And it was a whole day, to make a bunch of tamales. But I love Mexican food. It's not why I married my husband, but it's not a problem.
Yeah, made tortillas?
No. I know how to buy and eat lots of corn tortillas.
Have you found your favorite Mexican market? They're all over town.
Oh, carniceria. The one I'm trying to think. Because he works a lot and is in a restaurant a lot, I guess we're just most familiar with one at like 96 in Allisonville. Yeah.
They're everywhere, every side of town. I love it.
Yeah.
Just love it,
Yeah. Street tacos are my kryptonite.
Oh, burritos.
Mm-hmm.
Well, listen, this has been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
What was wait a minute? There's another favorite. Okay, so favorite directors, favorite shows. How about who are some of your favorite actors? But don't take it personally, anybody out there. But I'm sure you have people that you really look up to, don't you?
I do. I would say she's also one of my very good friends, but Carrie Neal is just any time I get to see her bring a character to life, I just know I'm in for a treat. Just very, authentic, and whatever is needs to be brought to the table is just there. And you sometimes see people you're very familiar with and your friends, but you forget who they are outside of that character because they just really draw you in. Let's see. My friend Addison Kohler, who was just in I Missed It, but was in Cabaret. She was in Starmites with me, going to be in Reefer Madness. Just absolutely, vocally so inspiring, and just really knows how to be a good actor on and off stage and supportive. See, when you ask me people's names, then I forget about every single person I've ever worked with or seen on stage in my life. And I miss him, Jonathan Krause, because he moved to New York. But I got to, I've been his mom or a mom adjacent role with him, even though he's not that much younger than me, 2 or 3 times. And just every time I got to work with Jonathan was so much fun. So, yeah, so much vulnerability he always brought to the stage.
Well, I think those who know how much you love and respect her know that you're on their mind, so I'm sure they will take your... They made put you on this.
I could have made a list, but yeah.
Serious, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, again, thank you so much for spending time with me. I feel like I've got to know you better.
Thank you.
So thank you. Thank you for sharing your valuable time with me, and it's a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a huge treat for me, an honor. So
the honor is all mine, believe me. Everybody, I hope you tune in next time. And this is Tom on the Up. Our thanks go out to our media sponsor, Urban Times. Urban Times is a monthly news magazine which serves as the official neighborhood newsletter for 16 Indianapolis neighborhoods, offering news about development, arts and entertainment, and from the business community.
Who will take center stage on the podcast next? Your seat on the aisle with Tom Alvarez awaits. Follow Tom on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and make sure to visit tomalvarez.studio. Watch Tom every other Thursday on Lifestyle Live on Wish TV, and make sure to listen every week here on the All Indiana Podcast Network.